Hello everybody, welcome or welcome back. My name is Sherry. Welcome to one of my Halloween projects. For this video I am attempting to make a spider almost freehand. I do use the cabochon mould, as you can see, to make the shape of the spider, but the legs are freehand and what I do with it afterwards will be freehand. I saw this done on one of those compilation videos. I think it was by Resin, but then I also saw it on a actual creator's channel. I'll link the channel. I can't remember her name off the top of my head, and I tried to do it from memory, and unfortunately the leg shapes that I am making don't work. But I wanted you to see the process and see the mistake that I made, and then when I make it again you'll see how I did it differently and a bit more successfully. So I've made two oval cabochons for the body and two round ones for the head, and now I'm going to glue them together using my bonding kit. This bonding kit is so strong, literally within a second or two of putting your UV light on it, your piece is stuck solid. I had difficulty with getting these to stay in position, and so they slipped. The top one slipped off the bottom one slightly and glued in the wrong position, but I continued on anyway because this is my first time making one. It's a practice piece and I wanted to see whether I had the legs right and see whether I would be able to stick the legs on successfully, rather than just waste these pieces and go straight away making another oval. I wanted to attach the legs and practice making the whole spider, and then at least these pieces weren't such a waste. So I've got I don't know what this mould is. It's something I got free off Etsy when I bought something else. But it's something that I use just for messing around in. And so I've put my spider leg pictures underneath it, and then I'm going to draw over them to make the legs. So the first lesson I will learn making these legs is the resin comes out too thick straight from the bottle, so it doesn't make the shape of the legs very well. As you can see there, so I clean that off and start again. This time I put a blob on my silicone mat and then use a stick to dip and then draw and cure as I go, because when you put UV down onto silicone like this, it shrinks really quickly. So just give them a quick cure with my pen light just to get it to hold in place before I put them under the dual lamp. And I'll jump ahead now. I don't think you need to watch me do all 8 of these legs. And now I'm going to attempt to stick the head to the body using the bonding kit again. And here comes the tricky part. Now, second lesson I learn is you need to thicken up those legs a little bit. Just one layer of flat 2D legs ain't gonna support the body. Well, I guess it depends. Are you wanting the body to be raised up off the surface, or is he just going to sit flush on the surface with his legs just outstretched? I guess that's personal preference. But for this second one, I do make them a bit more 3D by putting extra layers on. But here was the really fiddly bit, just trying to get them into position, and I was also trying to do this from memory. It's funny how you don't take notice of some things, and how many spiders have I seen in my lifetime, and yet I've never taken any notice of where their legs meet the body. So after making this one, I do Google pictures of spiders to see where the legs should have actually come out from. And at this point, I'm starting to realise that the legs aren't going to work. I don't necessarily want his body raised up off the surface. However, because of the shape of the cabochon, the feet aren't even touching the surface. So I'm trying to bend them a little. The ones on the right hand side have had less cure time, so they are bending a bit, but the ones on the left were pretty solid. Also, he's falling forward because he's top heavy at the head end for obvious reasons. So I put a bit of UV down, squashed him onto it, and then cured it, which created a flat base for him to sit on. Okay, now it's apology time. I've cut out a chunk of footage because you couldn't see what I was doing when I made the new legs and the new head and body. There was no difference really with the head and body anyway, but whenever I pause the recording to clean up and start a new section of the project, the orientation changes on my camera, or even though I check through the camera to see what it looks like before I hit the record button, I don't know whether something happens when I hit the record button that me nudging the phone does something, so I do apologise. Videoing, photographing, editing, it was all new to me 6 months ago when I started the channel, and I'm still learning. Thank you for bearing with me. Here's a still shot zoomed in to show you what the new leg shape looks like. It's more of a bridge shape, so 3 directions rather than just 2. And with these ones, after I had peeled them up off the mould, I turned them over to do a second layer to make them a little bit more rounded than the first set. And whilst you watch me do this bit, thank you to all of my subscribers. You are very much appreciated. And I'd also like to thank my friends at the Friendship Express. I'm not sure if this video will be part of the Friendship Express themed collaboration on the 11th of October, but it will definitely be part of the Friendship Express. They do a collaboration every Saturday, and it's only once per month where it's themed, and on the other days you can do anything you want. So it might be still on the Friendship Express, but just not on the 11th of October. It will definitely be on the 31 Days of Halloween collaboration organised by Alison at Stressful Mum Paints. This was a collaboration set up for anybody to join, and you didn't have to do all 31 days. You can just submit 1 or 2 or however many you can manage. So I will link the Friendship Express playlist and the 31 Days of Halloween playlist, So please take a look at both those playlists, check out the other creations. There are some wonderful creators in there and a nice variety of projects for you. Right, so now that I've made my spider, I did want him to be black, so I attempt to dust on some black mica powder, and obviously it doesn't work, but I was just curious to see if it would work a little. I end up spraying it with hairspray as well. I don't know if I left the hairspray too long, it wasn't sticking after that. So I sprayed it with hairspray again and didn't leave it quite as long in the hope it was still tacky, and it didn't quite work as much as I'd hoped, but it still darkened the colour, made it not look so crystal clear, so I was happy to go with it. Again, it's my first time making a spider, and so this was more about experimenting, and didn't expect it to be perfect. And as well as it being Halloween, and spiders aren't necessarily a Halloween animal, but a lot of people don't like them, so I thought it was still a decent idea for a Halloween project. But I had an ulterior motive, which is that I have just bought these spider gels and not used them yet. And what better project to try spider gels with than to make a spider web? So I have two sets of spider gel there. One is a matte set and one is a glittery set. So I chose the glittery silver one so that it would hopefully look like dewdrops of water on the web. Now, I didn't get a tool with the gels, and I think I should have, but I got them from Temu, so I've just accepted them the way they are and hoped that a dotting tool would do the job. This is really fiddly work and really difficult to get used to how to use it. To start with, I've been a bit gingerly with it. They came out too thin and not consistent. As I move through the project, I attempt to put it on thicker. At one point, I think I'm getting the hang of it, and then it goes wrong again. I don't know whether it's because I'm trying to stick it to silicone, because when I've seen it used being put onto resin, it seems to stick a lot better. But with this, I found that it was really difficult to stick the end down onto the silicone, and it was easier to stick it to where there was already some spider gel, so it sticks to itself easier. Jumped ahead there so that I don't bore you with the whole thing. It was so messy and frustrating. I would have difficulty getting to stay on the end of the dotting tool so that I could press it down. It would end up going up the side of the dotting tool. Initially I was trying to go around the edge of the mould, but because the gel was going up the side of the dotting tool, it was actually getting stuck on the side, not on the base. So I cleaned that off and decided to go slightly in from the edge of the mould. And I know this isn't a realistic shape for a spider web, but I can be a bit too literal sometimes, and with it being my first time trying to make a spider web, I was just focused on the shape of the mould rather than what the shape of a spider web would actually be. So it doesn't turn out too brilliant, but first time practicing with spider gel, and I actually think it was a bad project for a first try. I think part of the difficulty is when you are needing to break off the spider gel. When you're going over a resin piece, you can kind of go down the side of the piece and onto your mat maybe to break it off. With this, I'm having to try and just lift it up and away. And so I don't think this was a very good project at all for my first try. But this is what happens when you experiment, and hopefully I can teach you the mistakes to avoid as well. It's around about now where I thought I was actually getting the hang of it. As you can see there, I thought, okay, do it a bit thicker, but stretch it across a longer distance rather than worrying about wasting it, because for the amount you use, there's plenty in there. But then the difficulty I would have when I've got a big blob on the end would be cutting it off and then getting the rest back in the tub to start again. So after all the frustrations of having to try and cut it off and clean up my nib, I think I tried to go thinner again. I just couldn't find the middle ground. And by this point I had well given up on attempting to make anything decent looking. Well, long before this I'd given up on it being decent looking, but right now I was just totally over the project. I was really fed up, but I had come so far and I was not going to waste it. I just wanted to get it done, and starting to think ahead now to what I'm actually going to do with this when it's finished. I'm going to stick the spider on it, but then what am I going to do with a spider stuck to strings of spider web? So I decide to make a picture. Picture doesn't seem like the right word, but I can't think of a better word to use. You'll see what I mean. Basically, I seal it in with epoxy and then it comes out as one big chunk like a picture would. One last tip before we head into the final shots. If you want to keep your moulds clean and nice looking, don't put spider gel straight onto silicone. This stained this frame. I'll show you a picture at the end. It's not as clear on camera. It's definitely stained it though, and it don't come off. I tried with baby wipes and alcohol. Okay, So we will be onto the glamour shots very shortly, if you can call them glamour shots. Thank you for watching. Thank you again to my subscribers. And if you would like to see what other experimental projects I make that you can learn mistakes from, please subscribe if you haven't already. I do also do some successful projects too, so please check out my back catalogue if you haven't seen any of my previous videos. Thank you, have a nice week, and I hope to see you again next week. Bye bye.